This, of course, is all about vines. What do you know about vines? I know a little, but not a lot, and that's because I think most of what I know about vines I learned, unfortunately, from poison ivy. Where I grow up, poison ivy is very common. Of course, it's common here in eastern Missouri as well, and I had many encounters, unfortunately, with the stuff. I am deathly allergic to it. I get horrifically sick from poison ivy, and in messing with it, I've learned some things about poison ivy. Learned some things about vines. You have to be careful, for one thing, because poison ivy seems to me that it can grow almost anywhere. You could have the most blasted piece of earth on the planet, and I'll bet you poison ivy will grow there. That stuff is amazing. One of the other things is, once it starts, is it ever hard to get rid of? You guys don't really know where I live, but Gail and I own a house. It's a very old house. It's one of the oldest houses in O'Fallon, and because of that, we have trees all around us. We have an oak behind us. I will bet is every one of 200 years old. It's that large, but that tree's been there long before O'Fallon came along. Well, along the edges of that woods, I get poison ivy while the grandkids are here and other folks visit, and I constantly search that stuff out and spray for it. I mean, you've got to go get the special Roundup for poison ivy. The normal stuff just doesn't cut that, and even then, it manages to come back. I mean, poison ivy is just extremely hard to get rid of, and since I'm so allergic, I can't dig it out. Or next thing, I end up in the hospital. The other thing I've learned, and why I'm so vigilant on our own property, is if left unchecked, poison ivy, like most vines, can just take over an area. It can just choke out everything else that is around it. You have to be careful with vines. Those of you who do much planting of flowers and all that know this. You have to be a little judicious what you put where, or sometimes you create a mess without even meaning to. And I learned a lot of this from my grandfather. My grandparents, I've talked about them before, lived up the road from us. I did all their yard work growing up, and I was always up there helping them out with stuff. And my grandparents' house had been built by my great-great-grandfather. My grandmother, when she died, had lived 80, let me think how old she was, 81 years in that one location. She didn't grow up in the house. She moved there when she was 4. But the whole rest of her life, she lived in that house. And it had a front porch that faced the road, had a kind of a side porch that faced the garden. They had a garden like the size of the sanctuary, a huge garden, which they always made me work in when I was up there. But on that side porch was a huge grapevine. It started at the base and up, and all the stuff like you see in the old paintings of Americana. I mean, I kind of grew up with some of that. That vine went all the way across the porch, and we kids loved that vine, partly because it made it so pleasant to sit on the porch. It was leafy and shady. It faced west, but you didn't get a lot of sun in the porch because of the vine. Kept it very comfortable. We loved picking the grapes in the summertime. It was a big deal to pick grapes and not let Grammy catch it, because see, she used them. You know, she made jelly out of them, and we loved the jelly that came from the grapevine. We put it on our pancakes in the wintertime. We often went up to my grandparents for pancakes, and just smelling the blossoms. Oh, grape blossoms, wonderful. We played in that. Literally hid things in it. It was so thick. You know, we'd go up to the garage and get candy. I've talked about that before. If you had some extra, you hid it in the grapevine for later. We did stuff like that. We even climbed up it a little bit and not let Grammy and Grandpa see it. My great-great-grandparents had planted that vine, but it was ours. It was us kids. And I remember, we just loved that vine. And I remember the day I rode my bike up to mow the grass, and the grapevine was completely gone. no leaves, no vine, nothing. What there were, I just was astounded, were 2 sticks sticking out of the ground at the base of the porch. And that's where I got the mower out. We kept it under the porch. I pulled the mower out, it was a push mower. And I'm standing there looking at it. Grandpa came out of the bottom basement. They had to walk out. And I must have had a funny look on my face because he started to laugh and laugh and laugh. He said, yeah, don't worry. It'll grow back and it'll be better than it was before. You have to do this every now and then to a grapevine or they just get out of control. I never knew that. That was my first introduction to pruning grapevines. And the vine did grow back. Over the next couple of years, it grew back and it was thicker and grapier than ever. And Jesus knows this. And he uses it. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine grower. He removes every branch in me that bears no fruit. Every branch that bears fruit, he prunes to make it bear more fruit. Now, my granddad was not a church-going person. In fact, he was pretty well known for scaring off preachers. But I'm not kidding. You know, he was a chiropractor. He was very well educated. He was a very sharp cookie. He was a very bad alcoholic. But he was a cheapskate. He drank moonshine liquor. Literally out of a brown jug on the back porch. I own the jug today. I inherited it. It sits in our house on a shelf, but it's a sort of a family heirloom. When he had been hitting the sauce, he was just not a very pleasant guy. And I seriously doubt my grandfather ever heard this passage out of John's Gospel. But see, my granddad knew plants, and he knew vines, and he knew, as I did not, that if you just let them grow helter-skelter all over the place, they'd look nice. They'd be a great place to hide your candy bar. But you don't get as many grapes. You see, to get enough grapes for a good batch of grape jelly, you have to take care of the vine. You have to water it, you have to mulch it up. We always did that in the fall. But every now and then, that thing has to be cut back to almost 0. I can tell you right now, there are a whole bunch of preachers out there working the same text today, and they're talking about how nice it is to be part of the body of Christ, and how wonderful it is to be a branch on the vine. And this is a wonderful pat you on the head sermon. It didn't take much effort. But I don't think that's Jesus' point. I think it's in there. I think it's about the sermon. Don't get me wrong. What I don't think this sermon gets preached, or this text gets preached right, because the whole cutting back thing, this whole pruning thing, is stuff we Christians don't like to talk about. You know, there is this notion out there that Christians don't face difficulties in life. Or if you do face difficulties, somehow those difficulties are an indictment of your faithfulness. You know, if you were a true person of faith, the difficulties would not be so difficult. I've heard this a gazillion times over the last 32 years of ministry. But I tell you, that doesn't match my life experience at all. I think this is the mark. Because difficulties come in everyone's life. And they hurt. And they injure. And sometimes they're bad enough, they leave you wondering if life is worth living, which is what I talked about last week. These are, I don't have a phrase for this, pruning times. Times of emotional and mental adjustment. They are significant events in our lives. And generally I find when I talk to folks about their life story, these pruning times are not times they look back on with a lot of fondness. I think part of the reason is a pruning time, what makes it so stinking difficult, is a pruning time is a time when we confront one of the truths of life.